Saul over. Better Call Saul is finally over, and it managed to do something that I didn't think was possible. Be as good as Breaking Bad. It has a great blend of slow pacing that makes you think of every single move. This show is the ultimate slow burner that has an incredible payoff. Its direction and cinematography is some of the best out there. The characters are fleshed out so well. Overall, this is truly one of, if not the greatest TV show of all time. And we'll start with the main character of the whole Breaking Bad universe, Jimmy McGill. Jimmy's development in this show is incredible. Jimmy starts off wanting to be a better person, but because of his choices, it leads to the eventual downfall of becoming Saul. Seeing this slow transformation is amazing because you see what it led to. Jimmy started off as a public defender trying to make a name for himself. And when he happens to stumble upon a class action lawsuit, him and his brother work together to get this settled. But his brother Chuck stabs him in the back because he believes he can't change. He will always be Slippin' Jimmy. The constant back and forth between the two helped push Jimmy further into this rabbit hole of his schemes. Him also having a connection to the cartel hurt just a bit, and eventually because of Jimmy's actions, it did lead to Chuck's suicide. With Chuck's death, Jimmy was just not able to cope with this. And because of that, it led him even further to becoming Saul. Becoming Saul wasn't an act that we saw in Breaking Bad, it was a coping mechanism. His constant need for doing scams, his brother didn't believe in him, thinking he will never change, his brother's suicide, and finally Kim. Kim played the massive role in Jimmy, helped him become Saul. And we'll get right into Kim right now because Kim was such an amazing character. She wanted to defend the little guy, but seeing her and Jimmy do these schemes were interesting, and seeing how Kim starts to go downhill, showing how they are meant for each other. They are poison. Kim was ambitious and forthright, always making the difficult choices and excel at it. But that ambition goes towards doing these schemes. And eventually one scheme took way too far, which led to Howard's death. And after that, that completely changed Kim. After doing that scheme, almost ruining Howard's life and then eventually getting him killed, it was too much for both of them. Because of that, Kim left Jimmy, and Jimmy had to become Saul at that point. It was too much for him to handle. He couldn't cope with that. Now we can talk about Lalo. Lalo was the best villain introduced in the Breaking Bad universe. He was better than Gus. He has the traits of all the Salamancas, and that's what makes him the scariest one of all. Truly one of the best antagonists of the show. The way he was able to think on his feet constantly and readjust, and adding to the fact that he was ruthless, made him one of the most intimidating villains. He was just so terrifying. Like I mentioned, with him always being able to think quickly, you just never knew what to expect with him. He was unpredictable. The only thing that sucks is that you knew he was going to die. In Breaking Bad, Gus told Hector he was the last Salamanca, so the only logical outcome was Lalo's death. It was a fitting death too. It would have been nice to see him stick around, but it adds to Gus's character a bit more come Breaking Bad. Nacho was great. He was pretty similar to Jesse, only difference being is that Jesse was able to get out. Nacho couldn't. Nacho was so great because all he wanted to do was protect his dad. But he got too far into the game and he couldn't get out. Every time he tried to take down a Salamanca, another one took its place. It just never worked out for him, and seeing how he gets his eventual suicide is heartbreaking yet brave. He managed to outplay every single Salamanca. He was smarter than most people think. He got Tuco in jail, made Hector into a vegetable, and was able to get away from Lalo. In the end, he got what he wanted. He made sure his dad was safe because that's all he ever wanted. And Mike. What an amazing character. The cold-hearted, corrupted person that turned out to have the best plot in the entire series. It's heartbreaking to see how he gets deeper and deeper into this corrupt world and how he can't get out of it no matter what. He wants to protect his grandchild, but as we know, that doesn't happen because he had to pay the price for his corruption. The sad fact is that he could never change. Despite him taking bribes in his early days, he felt like he was doing something right, and unfortunately, that didn't work out for him. Mike had some of the best storylines throughout the entire show, and honestly was the most interesting part of this show. Him eventually getting to the point where he's working with Gus was fantastic, and it was set up extremely well. Overall, Mike was definitely one of the best characters in this show. Every single character was great. But let's get on to the time skip portion. As we see in the time skip with Jimmy, he just couldn't let Saul go. Despite him doing one last scheme, still, he couldn't let it go. All because he had one last phone call with Kim. This was what led him back to being Slippin' Jimmy. And he was exposed because of his arrogance. What's sad is that in the end with these final episodes, his brother was right. He can't change and he never will. But then seeing Kim in the time skip was extremely sad. We see her just kind of living a boring life. And we also see that she just can't make decisions for herself. She doesn't have an opinion on anything. Because the last time she made a decision and she had an opinion on something, Howard was killed. And when she finds out that all the Salamancas are killed, Gus is gone, Mike is gone, Kim decides to go back to New Mexico and to talk with Cheryl and explain everything. And after doing this, she can't help but have a complete breakdown. And seeing how these characters end is also very bittersweet. Jimmy was finally able to have one last chance of redemption, as he confessed to everything, to try to clear Kim off of Howard's case, and he took the blame. He could have easily kept that 7-year deal, but he knew that he needed to pay the price. He was finally able to let go of Saul. And with Kim, she still has a civil case to deal with. She was finally able to get closure though, and she was actually able to move forward. Now, this show is so amazing just because of its writing and direction. The writing is top notch, and it's honestly better than Breaking Bad in terms of writing. You can just tell how everything was planned from the beginning. They knew what they wanted to do with Jimmy and how he would end up as Saul, and how he would eventually end up as Gene, and how he goes back to being Jimmy. It was done perfectly. Gus was given more room to work with and help with where he's at in Breaking Bad. Mike was shown to be a corrupt but honorable man, but we see that it changes in the season 4 finale. Things change for him and he has no choice but to stay with Gus. The way that these plots were able to intertwine with each other is incredible. We finally get to see the diverging point in the final season, thanks to Lalo, the character of Chaos. And of course, you can't go without mentioning the direction. It was just amazing. All the choices that were made were next level. The cinematography, incredible. The way every shot was set up, incredible. The way that they were able to do super unique camera work and just have this laser focus, I would say in terms of cinematography and direction, it was better than Breaking Bad. As I kind of already mentioned with the ending, it was very bittersweet, but I think it worked out beautifully. This show wasn't like Breaking Bad where the finale was balls to the walls insane. The ending was a very obvious one, but it works out extremely well. I'm glad it didn't end with Saul or Kim dying. They have to live with their regrets. Jimmy has a lot of regrets. So does Kim. They have nothing but regrets. But in the end, Jimmy came out on top. Gene was taken away, and Jimmy officially killed Saul. All that remains in the final shot is the person we've known this whole time, Jimmy McGill. Overall, I would say that this was a perfect show. I was a little concerned with how it would end, but it stuck the landing and it ended up being possibly one of the greatest shows of all time. This show is going to deserve an A+ from me. Anyways, that is all. Thank you so much for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like, be sure to comment down below what other videos you'd like to see, and don't forget to subscribe as well. I'm MoeFoeGenius, and I'm signing out. See you all later.